Big tech playing a dangerous role for the cartels at the southern border. We've been telling you about how they're luring kids. Drug dealers are using social media platforms like TikTok to help drug and human smuggling operations. This is an ad that we're showing you right here on this screen. This is something I've been reporting for months since going to the border 5 times. Now, West Virginia Attorney General Patrick Morrisey is joining this fight and has been a leader in this fight. The AG of West Virginia is with me now. Patrick Morrisey, good to see you. Thanks very much for being here this morning. We were just showing an ad on screen, and the ad says basically, I've got $70,000. It's yours to transport migrants from McAllen, Texas to Houston in this tractor trailer. What's end up happening is you got 15 and 16-year-old American kids getting behind the wheel of a tractor trailer like this, getting into speed chases with the police in Texas as they jam in as many migrants as will fit in that truck. The truck tips over, and then everybody dies. I mean, we've seen this over and over again, AJ. You've written letters to the CEOs of Meta, Twitter, Snap, Pinterest, TikTok, and other companies, urging them to take action to prevent these drug cartels from using their platforms to prey on people. Tell us about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, thank you, Maria, for having me on. And I think everyone knows that the Biden border disorder is affecting everyone across the country. Every state is a border state. And one of the things that we found is that the Mexican drug cartels and the Chinese, they're using every potential form to sell their wares to the American people and to poison us. It's a very serious problem. So we wrote a letter to the major tech companies, and we've said, look, we know that your platforms are actually being used to help people commit crimes, and we believe that you have to step up and fight back and do something about it. Maria, we talk a lot about the big tech companies and the town square from a free speech perspective. Well, I think when we're looking at the drug fight, we have to look at the street corner perspective on social media, which is where these drug dealers hang out, and they're trying to sell their wares to all these folks to lure more product into the United States. The big tech companies need to do more about that. I've written to them. We're going to pressure them to do more. I'm asking them some tough questions, and they need to respond, because if they're going to be the big companies advertising, and they need to check their algorithms, they need to take steps to block these things from happening.
Yeah, I think that the American people are so sick and tired of the politicking going on at these social media companies. They're quick to censor Donald Trump. They're quick to take down a post that they don't agree with politically, but they've got these ads running over and over again from drug cartels, luring kids, American citizens, to get behind the wheel of an 18 tractor trailer to transport migrants who have come into this country illegally. When is this going to stop? Do you think you're going to be effective in ensuring that they understand everybody's watching this?
Well, right. But I think, Maria, what we're seeing, and you've been down at the border, I commend you for all the coverage that you've had on this, with the administration effectively telling people, we're going to give you a pass. That's a terrible message to send, not only to the Chinese and to the Mexican drug cartels, but to every criminal coming across the border into our country. It's a terrible message to send to big tech. My message is a little bit different. Look, you have a responsibility when you're running these social media platforms to make sure you do your job and you don't help facilitate crimes. And I know that other AGs share this perspective, and we have some different tools. We'll push back on it. If you want to be treated fairly, do your job, work with law enforcement, work through the algorithms to stop this in its tracks. Just because Biden's a disaster at the border doesn't mean the big tech needs to be complicit with it.
But they are, and they were complicit right before the election as well. We went to the crimes lab, which is what we're showing video of right now. We went to the crimes lab in Texas. The Texas Department of Public Safety gave me a tour of the guns that they seized at the border that these drug cartels are using. I mean, these are serious operations with serious equipment. Right. They're using drones to drop fentanyl in Texas. And so, you know, it's extraordinary to me that these are the individuals that are actually the ones deciding who gets into America and who doesn't get into America. Chad Wolf told me that they took in $13 million in the year before COVID. $13 billion. They make $300 million a week just on the human smuggling. That doesn't include the drugs. So let's talk about the drugs.
Right.
Halloween is now just a couple of days away. Parents are now increasingly concerned about these rainbow fentanyl pills that have been seized across the country, AG. You're also warning about the emerging synthetic opioid that is said to be 10 times stronger than fentanyl. I want to know about that because, you know, this is a poisoning of Americans. You know, you talk about it as if it's overdose. A lot of people say, oh, you know, we had 107,000 overdoses. No. American citizens are not taking fentanyl and then deciding, oops, I just overdosed. No, they are taking whatever they're taking, and they've been laced with poison, fentanyl. So
Correct.
how come there is a poisoning of Americans underway, and we don't hear a peep about it from the White House?
Listen, this is the most dangerous part of the Biden presidency, that China and the Mexican drug cartels are poisoning our people. They're murdering our citizens. Let's be very clear. There are a lot of people that are trying to buy heroin or cocaine or other types of synthetic products, and then those products get laced with fentanyl. And we heard about it just this weekend, right? With one batch, you lost a Wall Street trader, I think a lawyer, and a social worker. And you're going to see and hear that more and more, not only because the fentanyl is poisonous and it's coming up from down in the southern border, but also because you have these new products, these nitazines and other things coming into the U.S. that are even more dangerous. When I think of a nitazine and how that's going to start to proliferate, we just heard back from the DEA that there were over 1,800 instances of these nitazines that are reported over the last year or so. We know that we have to stop these threats coming in, and that means we need a real border. We have to start to control it now. The only way that's going to change is we're going to have to actually have a completely different Congress, and we're going to need a new White House. These guys have demonstrated they're failing every time, but citizens are dying. And in West Virginia, that's at record levels. This illicit fentanyl is killing our people, and they're not doing anything about it in terms of stopping coming in or the financial incentives to send these mules across the border and ultimately into West Virginia.
I just want to point out, the point that I was making is it's not just illicit drugs that people are taking, right? I mean, you've got Adderall, Ativan, prescription drugs that people buy online are being laced with fentanyl. So, I mean, I saw there's a story in the Journal the other day about three people who took cocaine, and that cocaine, they all dead because the cocaine was laced with fentanyl. That's one thing. Fine. Okay, I get that. But there's also prescription drugs, you know, that they think are totally safe that they're buying that are also laced with fentanyl. Is there any advice you want to give parents as we approach Halloween? I mean, should we be going trick-or-treating now?
Absolutely, Maria. I think, Maria, you're exactly right. You have to be mindful. If you're a parent, whether it's prescription drugs, especially if you think you're buying a cheaper alternative, or if you're talking about vaping. We've heard situations about vaping where someone thinks that they're smoking something or inhaling something, but it's laced with fentanyl. So everything is a threat, especially when you have this border problem and illicit products flooding across the country. So it's a very tough time. We need everyone to step up and say, look, there is nothing safe unless you're buying from a completely legitimate source, a pain pill. And even then, as you know, those pills have a lot of addictive qualities. People need to look out every time you have a synthetic that there's a potential for this to be laced in.
It's just incredible what weak leadership does. We have to be on guard for everything. AG, thank you for the letter on social media. We're going to be watching to see if they did they respond to you, by the way? Real quick, we got to jump.
No, they haven't responded yet, but we're going to stay on them. Maria, you know we do. We're going to keep pushing these guys because they need to respond. It's their platforms. It's their street corner on social media. They need to do their jobs.
AG, thank you. Patrick Morrissey this morning. We will see you soon. We're going to take a break, and then we'll be back with the mayor of Miami, Francis Suarez.